Oboi Amuriat. Power, the man we have waited for quite long, the man who has been at the helm of the FDC party for the last 6 years, one of the strong lions of Teso, and a villager by work methods, much admired for his village style of being down to earth and behaving like any other. Welcome, Engineer Patrick Oboi. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Sir Simon, for having me here today on the Hot Cup. It's been a while since I came to the studios, and to me, really, it's a great privilege to be here, hosted by an indomitable host, and really a person who knows me and describes me as a simple and down to earth.
How do you feel when fellow politicians call you a villager?
Well, I think that is where I come from. Really? It's a real description of the person who is at the helm of the leadership of the FDC, who has been at the helm of the leadership for 6 years now, coming to 6 years, and somebody who has really made a political name and made a contribution to this country, coming from the grassroots. And so really,
does it work for your politics?
it does, because
who
it
moved
does.
Without shoes for
well, yes, it does work very well for my politics and the politics of the FDC. We come to this country in simplicity. We come to this country in humility. We address the needs of the common person, because it is that common person that we live with. It's the common person from which we come. We therefore resonate with the kind of challenges that they face. And therefore, you know, what better politician would you have than to have a person who, you know, has a feeling of the people of 80% of the population of this country, which are actually villagers. So I'm quite happy to be simple. And so during my free time, you will find me in Chikubo, you know, walking with common Ugandans, going to shop in Owino, in Karelwe, you know, among the people farming in Mukono and elsewhere in this country. So really, I think that this description fits very well with the personality of this villager.
Your village style is killing the party.
No, not quite. You see, I think that whereas some political players in this country would think being sophisticated is something that appeals to the masses, I think it does appeal to just a few bourgeoisies, you know, elites. And I mean, whom are we speaking to? We are speaking to a majority of this country, and I think that in my leadership, the FDC has profited a lot, because we have taken this party to where the people are found.
Would I be right if I said you are diminishing the political space? You have disappeared. You have left the political space for the NRM, the topical mainly for the standby generators of the Mhozis, and then for the Red Devils. If this appears to be nowhere.
Well, ordinary political minds would conclude that way. But, you know, those who use political lenses to look at what is happening in the country would know that we are doing a lot of work. And we have reaffirmed the fact that the FDC is a national party. The FDC has held fort in all the regions of this country where we have representation in terms of leadership, let alone, you know, at the national level. And so really, I think there are a number of factors that people may be looking at while judging the FDC and where it is at today vis-a-vis where it was yesterday. And quite easily some people will say, well, you have lost the position of the leader of the opposition in parliament. And we say, oh, yes, by virtue of the numbers, under the circumstances of the election of 2021, we have lost the leading opposition political position in parliament. But be this as it may, I think we still remain the leading political opposition party, opposition political party in the country, and there is evidence to that effect. And I think we still remain a proud people with a firm base that can be grown. We still stand on firm political grounds and not quicksand, political quicksand, as you know, some people may be standing on today. And I think it's upon the population now to judge us as we progress, especially given that the hangover of the election of 2021 has now gone, and that there is a new dawn in the face of the Ugandan population that now defines the direction that we are going to be going in the next few years. But you know, just to comment on what you have referred to as a standby generator, and whether this really makes political sense against which any political group in this country can be measured, I have this to say. I think this is a smoke screen that people should not take seriously. I've always described the Muhoozi project as a gimmick by Mr. Museveni and his family, intended to hoodwink the people. I would like to say this
man is organizing structures.
A real gimmick. A real gimmick. And anybody, you know, who has studied the politics of this country like I have done and followed Museveni for these many years of his existence as a political player in this country would say it is a gimmick, intended to hoodwink the people of Uganda. And just to qualify this, I want to say that Mr. Museveni is dead bent at dying in power. His affinity for power is very high, higher than any other creature in this country. And, you know, reading through his book, The Mustard Seed, you will see that from the very, very early stages, he began to aspire to become president of this country, even way back during his school times. It's good to be ambitious, but it's also not good politically to be overtly ambitious. And I think that Mr. Museveni has defined his politics as politics of being overtly ambitious. And so, even to his son, he is not going to entertain any competition. And so really, the definition that the Balams have given to their boss, General Muhoozi, or is he Field Marshal, is that, you know, it is only when the main generator goes off that the sub-generator or the small generator will turn on. And I think they are right in that sense. You might have followed the narrative, the change in the narrative from the time when General Muhoozi Kainerugaba sort of indicated that he's interested in the presidency of this country to what it is now today. There have been shifts in the goalposts. At one time, they said there was chest thumping and, you know, almost a foregone conclusion that he will be on the ballot of 2026. Now his supporters and admirers are saying, okay, well, if Muze is available, then, you know, he's not going to contest. And so I think the availability of a vacancy is going to depend on whether Museveni will be of sound mind at any one time in his life for him to continue being president, whether he would be completely deformed in a situation where he cannot lead the country, or when he's dead. Those are the three kind of situations that will cause the standby generator to be triggered, and it will start. But that will be very difficult, because the manner in which he has held this country using autocratic methods, dictatorial tendencies. Yes, I will tell you this.
Oh boy.
Politics of exclusion.
Really?
And really, Sir Simon, I come from a point of knowledge because I have competed against Mr. Museveni. And I have seen it all. In our history as a political party, we have had Dr. Kizza Besigye, tussling it out with Mr. Museveni. And you can see the kind of rough game that he has experienced 4 times. I have experienced this just once. and before that, there was the case of our elder, the late Dr. Paul Kawanga Semugere, where we saw, rigging left, right, and center in the election of 1996. And this has continued. We have also seen a Museveni completely adulterating our constitution for his own political expedience. And, this is a man, I was in the House at the time when 58 of us voted against the lifting of term limits. But before that, Museveni came with a promise to the people of Uganda to lead a transitional government that would last only 4 years. And, after as the 4 years was coming to an end, said, but look here, I think we have a weak constitution. We need to write another constitution. And so people were duped into believing that, okay, this holy political player is somebody who means well for this country. And he wants to write a good constitution for us. And, unsuspectingly, we fell into his trap.
And you wrote a good constitution?
Well, the constitution was written. That is also debatable.
A good constitution?
Well, maybe not an excellent constitution, a good constitution for this country.
Engineer, do we have a good constitution?
No, we don't, because it has been amended several times, from cover to cover. I think even the color of the cover has been changed. And you know that in 2005, term limits were removed using money, bribing MPs.
Why do you say using money, not consensus? The MPs then, you have been a member of parliament.
Look here, yes, I lived.
There was a majority vote.
I lived through this time. Because I was among the voters in parliament. Among the 58 who voted no. Clearly, we had a very clear clarity in, we're conscious.
That was your opinion?
We are conscious. No, why I say...
that was your opinion, to vote against.
Our opinion was the correct opinion. Is that I have since met my colleagues, former colleagues, members of parliament, who voted for the amendment to remove term limits. And they regret.
Sure.
Including Amama Mbabazi, who has gone back to Museveni. The proponents of this amendment regret. For them, they thought they were doing this in order to protect their own political positions and to maintain themselves as members of parliament. At the next election, 98% of them were thrown out. And again, this is how Mr. Museveni plays his politics. The attrition rate in parliament is extremely high. And even those sitting today, those who amended the constitution in 2017 to remove age limits regretted in 2021. About 80% of them did not return. Those who are dancing to the tunes of Mr. Museveni today, singing all tribes of praises, Awangale, as if Museveni
Tova Kumei,
Muze Komao, that kind of
Chalimbo.
A man is aging, becoming flappy, and sickly, and you are still encouraging him to keep
upstairs.
Very step upstairs. We do not
if
know.
This man has duped you, let me use the word, has duped you through these games, remain today where he is, then he's smarter upstairs.
No, he has, and again, this is something that we can debate on. How has he manipulated the population?
Manipulated?
Yes.
Or outsmarted?
We have a population that is not knowledge-based. You should know that.
The man has outsmarted you.
They have been kept in darkness. They have been kept in poverty. They have been kept in exclusion. And, this is the target population that we want to go to, with limited resources, or no resources at all, compared to the huge amounts of resources that are collected and very little given back to them to buy their brains. And, you know, the population that we have in Uganda that deliberately has been kept in the dark is easy to manipulate at every election. And so you can easily see our folks in the villages accepting 500,000 to sell 500 shillings, 1,000 shillings, 5,000 to the maximum to sell their souls in an election. And so all the time Museveni emerges, he has the ability to allocate marks wherever he wants in an election, and because he's got an electoral commission that subscribes to him.
Amuriat, my president.
I am here.
Those lamentations have been on for the last 20 years. What new thing do you have? We have lamented on how the population takes 500, how they go for salt, how they are manipulated. What else do we have to say?
I think the population has got to rise up. And I would like to qualify what I mean by rising up. The FDC, in terms of policy, does not believe in violent change. It doesn't. And from the very inception of our political
party, it believes,
party,
but it fears.
It does not believe in that. We have told everybody who cares to listen to us that we are not going to take this country to war.
You don't believe in violence. Let's go back to that. That you don't believe in violence. But you are a proponent of defiance yourself.
We are not going to participate in violent change.
What did you mean by
defiance? We are not going to take up arms to fight the regime in power. Now, this as opposed to activism and defiance is that...
Defiance is violence.
No. Non-violence.
War is an extreme level of violence.
Let me even define the type of defiance that we mean. That we are non-violent in defying. And you see, defiance can take different forms. You can just sit home and be defiant. Say we are shutting our shops. We are not moving out of our houses. And once there is unanimity on this, then, Kampala can be shut down. No business. No Matoke comes to town. No Lumonde comes to town. No Amata comes to town. And then the people here in Kololo and Naguru, the bourgeoisies, begin to feel the heat of that action. That is non-violence. And this has worked.
Is that the violence, the defiance you're talking about?
Well, I think that
we're talking about
maybe some people, that is, we have always been judged wrongly in as far as defiance is concerned. And again, this is a deliberate narrative of the regime in power. Because they are going to say, look, these are people who will come to town, cause havoc, break windows, step on your tomatoes, loot your businesses, items from your businesses. And that is not what we are. As a way to counter our civil and non-violent actions. And so, we are going to be spending time educating the population. As you know, Mr. Museveni has avoided civic education. And this is why he's decampaigned, political education in schools. In fact, abolished it. I think even political science in universities is under attack. And this is in preference to having a non-informed population that cannot rise up and express their desire to bring change. That cannot rise up because they are hard pressed, they are pressed to the floor, and that they require change. And this is what Mr. Museveni has done.
Thank you, Poa. My guest is Engineer Patrick Oboi Amuriat, the party president of the Opposition Forum for Democratic Change, a former presidential contestant whose trademark was barefoot. We have a short break, and when we return, we talk to Amuriat on the future of his party ahead of 2026.
This is Hot Cup at 9 with Sir Simon Muyanga Lutaya.
The public has asked some sections How serious was your presidential bid? Was it simply a fill up of a gap on the ballot for the party? Or you really thought you were going to win and become president of this country? How serious was the bid?
It was serious, as we had been serious the 3 times as a political party that we contested the presidency under Dr. Kizza Besigye. And one thing that the public needs to know is that once a candidate becomes a candidate of a political party, that candidate becomes the property of the political party. And therefore, what the population will look at is the strength of the candidate as an individual, what is the capacity of the candidate to lead the country. And secondly, the strength of the political party, and most importantly, by the way, across the country. And so I was relying on my own political strength as a person who had experience spanning nearly 25 years in the politics of this country and known to have represented people for 15 years in parliament, run in elections and won. On the other hand, my political party has got up to about 5 million supporters and members across the country. And so it was on that basis that I did go into this election, not just for the fun of it, not just to be allowed to be beaten, molested, imprisoned 45 times in 65 days that I contested, not just to go and be subjected to pepper spray and all sorts of chemicals, being taken to prison and to courts. It wasn't for the fun of that.
You wanted to be president?
I wanted to be president.
Really?
Well, why do you doubt me?
You thought it was possible?
Why not? I wanted to be president. The fact that Mr. Museveni would not allow this to happen, notwithstanding. And so that the question that you should be asking, in my opinion, is whether I expected a free and fair election. And to that, I would say no. I didn't expect a free and fair election. But winning was an expectation.
From that kind
being
of
announced,
terrain.
Being announced was not an expectation. And so when you talk about the terrain, then that is the gist of the matter. It is the right question to ask. And I would like to say to this that Mr. Museveni continues to have to own the instruments of manipulation. He continues to have an electoral commission that is part of his establishment. He continues to command the army and the police and all the other security and forces to his advantage. He continues to have unlimited supply of money coming from state coffers in an election. Now, when you put all of this together, then you find that Mr. Museveni is a favorite, normally, to be announced as the leader, as the winner of any election. Now, I know that we allocated 3.25% in the last election, and I am deliberate when I talk about allocation, because this is what Mr. Museveni does.
Imagine 3.25%.
That is
down from Dr. Besigye 35.
That is an allocation.
What do you mean by allocation?
You see,
preset.
In fact, even the 30 or 40 that Dr. Besigye got during his time, the 27% was an allocation. And Mr. Museveni plays a sinusoidal game in politics. When he sees that the stakes are high and that the confidence levels in any election or the election process is going down, he brings down his marks and raises that of the opposition, so as to give hope to the opposition in the next electoral cycle.
Next time.
And this is the game he's playing with NUP. I am sure that, in the hearts of our friends in NUP, they would want to go for another election, expecting to win and be announced. And so anybody, a naive political player would say, but the first time we were in the political scene, just 2 years after our formation, we were able to garner, was it 30-something?
35.
35%. Just, within 2 years. Now, given the 5 years that we have
55.
we are going to go to 80%. And, this is the narrative that Mr. Museveni enjoys most. And he will continue to play a mind game on the people, I am sure that, listen to me,
yes.
Sir Simon.
Yes.
I'm sure that if Dr. Kizza Besigye, with all his political prowess, went into this election, he would probably have been given 5%. Allocated just to sort of completely annihilate him and remove him from the political scene. That is the game he plays. And these results are doctored by the Electoral Commission. They are announced by the Electoral Commission under the command of the intelligence system in this country. And you know that...
having said that,
General Sejusa, formerly Tinyefuza, has said this severally of the election of 2016, that I participated actively as the field coordinator for the elect Kizza Besigye Task Force, the FDC presidential candidate. And so, talking about winning an election by the opposition, it is possible. But whether that winner will be announced is a question that is not debatable. He will not be announced under the present circumstances. And so this is why we have always said that we go into an election not with the hope of winning and being announced, but with the hope of winning, but also at the same time gaining some dividends in terms of mobilization of our people. And we have effectively done this, because I just want you to wind the clock backwards to what kind of population we had 20, 25 years ago. A totally naive population, a sleepy population. They were comforted by the fact that they could go to their beds and sleep, and not by the fact the fact that somebody was cheating them. They were comfortable as far as there was security in the streets, all was okay, but not thinking about the development of education in this country, wealth creation in this country, the growth of agricultural enterprises in this country. And so that population could live with even hardships. You have a bad road passing through your village, and look like, the government is coming after all. Let's not worry about this. You had children not being provided for in terms of education, and they would accommodate that. They would go to hospitals and find no doctor or medical personnel or even drugs, and they would be quite happy to go to clinics or pharmacies to buy medicine, essential medicine that was supposed to be supplied by government. Today, they don't tolerate bad roads. They don't tolerate high taxes. The spirit of defiance is written all over this country. And that, the population is prepared to rise up. It is why, if a road passing here in front of you was generating a lot of dust, you would not just keep quiet. You would act. And, in certain situations, cause something to change about it. So, that is a score on our part. And so, we laid a foundation for people to stand up and ask for their rights. A foundation, of course, that newcomers have underrated. If I use the analogy of a farmer, we have followed the land, prepared it, plowed it, broken the earth, sowed seed, wed, and now, the crops have begun to show signs of maturing. And, you know, some people think these crops were just thrown from heaven, that there was no labor put into it. Anybody, you know, coming from outside who does not know what agriculture means will think probably these crops came to that field by themselves. And this is the advice we have always given to people who are coming into mainstream politics, you know, who have come in recently, especially those in opposition, that this struggle is not a struggle that has lasted.
That's why I wanted to go that, Patrick, as a leader of a political party, one of that national, the one you say has a national character, how have you moved to work with the other political parties or political players that share with you in common the desire for change? How have you worked together?
The FDC has had a history of working together. You know that in 2011, we came together with the other forces of change to cause what is now known as the IPC. And the IPC was meant to bring those political parties that were opposed to the NRM to back one single candidate.
You are debating history. Let's look at the current.
Well, you go to look back at our history and see what...
How are you working with the current players?
Why I am bringing our history to this conversation is that it is going to be used in the current circumstances on how we relate with other political parties. Mm-hmm. But if you don't like that, I would like to summarize this by saying that we have had a history of betrayals. Working with other political parties. You know, there are times when we abandoned our own candidates in preference to the other political candidates from sister political parties in the opposition. This caused those parties or elements or individuals within those parties to grow politically. But you know, what has their grown benefited us as a political party, or even the struggle? We find some of them turning against us as a political party. And the vivid example I would like to give today is about the membership of the EALA, East African Legislative Assembly, where, as you remember, and viewers will clearly remember, we as FDC were magnanimous when we decided that we should disagree with being given two positions in EALA, and yet our comrades do not have anything. And so we moved to urge the NRM to cede two positions, because currently they have 7 out of 9, in preference to having the Democratic Party and the Uganda People's Congress members occupying those seats in EALA. We even signed a memorandum of understanding on a certain afternoon when the nomination was supposed to be taking place. And by the way, if the boycott had succeeded, then it would not have been possible for the NRM to send
a lesser number
to send 7 to EALA, because then there would be, it wouldn't reflect the character of membership in our national parliament, as is stipulated in the EALA law. Now, in that protocol. Now, the DP, after signing, DP and UPC, after signing an MOU with the FDC, decided to go straight, giving us no time, and they nominated. And so, to this day, they occupy the position that was hitherto occupied by the FDC. Be that as it may, the big beating that we experienced ahead of 2021 was really betrayal by some of our colleagues in the opposition, who kept demeaning us, associating us with NRM. They were so strong on social media saying our leader, Dr. Kizza Besigye, was the same, one and the same with Museveni. They even said we had tried 4 times. And how can we conclude that democracy works when the others want to contest the 5th time? Well, democracy does not work. I beg your pardon. All sorts of things, false hope given to the population of this country. And, finding a desperate and gullible population, they bought into this false hope.
The leaders of these political parties, you are much older than the leader of NUP, the leading opposition party. How have you used your seniority and age to guide this young man to build a formidable force for change?
You see, Simon,
he's senior now.
It takes 2 to tango. Even your own child at home may not listen to you. When they come of age and say, they are 18, what are you this old man who does not know anything, have to do with me? It takes somebody who is prepared to listen to be advised. Otherwise, if they are not prepared to listen, then whom are you going to advise? I'm not saying this of our friends in NUP.
I don't know whatever it's happened, but what I'm waiting for.
What I am saying is that
to see Engineer Patrick Oboi lead a delegation of his Secretary General and some top NEC members to even pay a courtesy call on NUP at Kamocha. You have not been to Kamocha yourself.
The same way I would expect the NUP leadership to come to Naja Nkumbi to pay a courtesy call. Have they been to Naja to pay a courtesy call?
No.
It is why I am saying it takes 2 to tango. But, that aside, we have held meetings before. Maybe not at the seat of our respective political organizations, but we have held meetings.
Because you are failing to show the public that the two of you
our understanding is that we do not have a common understanding.
You don't have?
At the moment. And so, it has to be birds of the same feathers.
I want to quote you again. The opposition, as of today, does not have a common understanding.
A common understanding on how this dictator can be got rid of.
You have no common position.
Let me make that clear.
You have no common position on that.
And I will say this. There are people who still believe that elections will deliver, by itself, will deliver this country.
And
we are saying no.
Elections by itself will
not deliver this country. And so,
what is
in case somebody out there doesn't get me right, I say this because we go into an election not to expect a positive result or to be announced. We could win the election. And as I've said before, we don't expect to be announced the leader of this country. And so we are saying to our friends, let's do things differently. We have been doing this thing for about 20 years now, over 20 years now. And, the elections by themselves and in themselves are not delivering. Isn't it time for us to think outside the box?
And do what?
Well, these are now issues of strategy.
You have just said here,
which
you don't believe in violence. You don't believe in war for change. You don't believe in elections for change. What again do you believe in?
The very minimum that we can really undertake as a political party is civil action. Mobilize the population to say no.
Nobody can. No population is going to.
And we believe
civil action would work if you were united. But Ugandans cannot even join you when they know that Patrick, for example, if you don't know, the public knows in some sentiment that you work for M7. And that during your campaigns, bad money came into your campaign. And he said you are not set to win, you are simply there to occupy his space and give accountability. Yes, they still work for him.
I am the chief executive of this party, the topmost leader of the FDC.
Yes. Did you see bad money?
What you are talking about bad money, I do not know of.
No bad money came to the party?
What I want you and other people in your profession to help us with is to probe this further.
To investigate.
Show us where this money came from. Tell us who delivered the money. Give us the evidence.
Where would bad money come from?
And I do.
The source is common, but perhaps how it was delivered.
Yes, who received that bad money? You see, if there was that bad money at all.
Who normally handles
and so what we are saying is, put this on the table. We, as a political party, have never thought of working with the NRM as an institution.
About as individuals?
Individuals, you know that some of our members have actually gone to work with the NRM. Before they went openly to join...
Forget the members and talk about the two. The party president and his secretary general. That you meet this man at different times.
That is laughable.
That you work for him.
No. This... In fact, I think...
Comrade Mao has actually promised that he's going to bring a list.
A list is not enough. A list backed with evidence of people who meet Museveni in the night.
And
really, if it includes me or even the Secretary General, we are welcome. You know, that is the day.
Because
when
for 6 years in resistance, 6 years in resistance, how do you survive?
That is the...
6 years in resistance, how do you survive? You have led a party which has no money for 6 years.
Well, we fundraise. By the way, we are even a credit-worthy organization. We own property. That headquarters sits on a piece of land worth billions of shillings. You know how large it is? So we are credit-worthy. I know there is little money, it isn't that much, that comes from the government through the Electoral Commission by law and by virtue of the numbers we have in Parliament. But we also have our sympathizers. And we have maintained a policy, and in fact, in preference to exposing our supporters, we keep the source of such money that we fundraise confidential. If those who are providing those funds do not want us to make it public. And so in the election, talking about the election of 2021, we passed a resolution to borrow money against our credit worthiness. And we ran this campaign.
You borrowed the money?
Yes. We didn't have money enough to run the election. So there is a resolution for those who would like to...
Is that official? Is it in your records?
Yes.
That you borrowed the money?
There is a resolution to borrow. And I would confidently say the first borrowing that we had was 20 million from Owechitibwa Sebugwao at the time.
20 million?
20 million. That was the first money we borrowed. From Owechitibwa Sebugwao.
Who has left?
Yes, at the time she was still with us. We since paid back.
You can now see how your party is losing credible brains.
You see, again, that narrative that you are towing is the same narrative that the media has told many times. At one time, I was told the party had collapsed. And this was occasioned by the movement of General Mugisha Muntu. No, those came before, with a host of members of parliament out of the party. You know, that is a time when I really had sleepless nights. Because everybody said this party has collapsed. It has died in your hands. This villager here has suffocated the party.
The villager with his village
you remember
style.
that?
Yes, with his village style.
Where did you bring this one from? But I used my political skills to bring back the party together. My argument, and it's the argument that holds to this day, is that much as the party may be about individual political leaders within the party, the strongest foundation of the party is in the population. Because it is the population that supports those leaders to become whom they are. And you know, I have been
Wonderful.
right, by the way.
Let's have a short break. When we return in our last part of this debate and discussion with Patrick Oboi, we look at the prospects of 2026 for a party which says they don't believe in war, they don't believe in elections, but they are still in the political space to act. Let's have a short break.
This is Hot Cup at 9 with Sir Simon Muyangalutai.
The president of the Opposition Forum for Democratic Change. We will have at least 4 last questions in brief. 1, as a political player, as a senior leader, as a mobilizer of rural communities, what's your take on the parish development model?
The parish development model is again a scheme just to keep Ugandans hopeful. And you cannot talk about the parish development model without talking about the predecessor programs. Where is Bonaba Gagawale? Abarata Kere in my native Ateso.
Abarata?
Kere.
Abarata Kere.
All should get wealthy.
Abarata Kere.
Yes. Where is Emioga? Operation Wealth Creation. And all the predecessor programs preceding the parish development model. All total failure. I think we need to give accountability for those programs.
How did you help those who are to succeed?
Which ones?
You, as the Emioga, did you as a party help?
That was not
these were for your communities.
That was not our idea.
But they're for your communities.
The idea was coming from the ruling party, and there is no way even, the blueprint would be adjusted by us. Although we're critical of some of these programs. Because for us, our first option would have been to bring people together in production. You know that 80% of the population is in agricultural production. Some Musevenianese people, when they came to power, the first thing they did was to kill cooperatives. The ability of people to cultivate together or produce together, while sourcing inputs together. Inputs, by inputs I'm talking about seed, pesticides, and all those things that you need.
Proper seed in this case.
Yes. And the ability of people to produce in a synchronized manner, and also the ability to market together, including collective bargaining. That is what we put across from the very inception of our party to the NRM. Since the NRM had killed this idea, looking at it as an Obote idea, they would not take any of our proposals. By the way, we made a lot of proposals, even before we became a political party. We had a manifesto of the elect Dr. Kizza Besigye in 2001, when he ran under the umbrella of Reform Agenda. We had a manifesto in 2006, 2011, 2016, and most recently, 2021, with so many ideas that if the NRM had embraced some of the ideas and even owned them, maybe we would be having a better country. But because the intention is not to have the rural poor be elevated from poverty, there are going to be all these kind of programs brought to the parishes. I'm not sure whether you know that even as we speak today, some parishes have not got beyond 10 million shillings. Now you're talking about a parish. Even if you gave just an individual 10 million shillings, it will not be sufficient for them to provide water on their farms, to do some kind of fencing, to have a fairly good shelter for poultry, for example. It will just go off like that. Now, even if the target of 100 million shillings were given to the parishes without extension services, proper extension services, without proper training of the farmers. Some of them have actually used some of the money that has gone to the parishes for marrying wives. And you think you are doing anything to this population?
What is the alternative?
It looks like, in the case of Teso, for example, I told Mr. Museveni to his face. I said,
please compensate us our cattle.
Where did you find him?
Well, I met him while I was still member of parliament.
Oh, long.
Yeah, so many years ago. And I said to him, I was the chairman of the Teso parliamentary group, by the way.
What is the alternative to PDM?
I think that a strong cooperative movement is something that we need in this country. Where
cooperative can only stand on production. So PDM is mobilizing
no,
production.
No.
Even
look here. Now the way they are doing it, giving cash, is the wrong way. It is the wrong way. Cash is very tempting. It can be converted into anything. How about having tractors in the communities? Maybe a number of tractors per sub-county. Having a seed bank. There is a warehousing system. If we passed the law in the House, it has never been implemented.
On the warehouse system?
Yes, where you get, during, immediately after post-harvest, the farmers surrender
their
produce to a central
banking system.
And they are given receipts and given some cash to leverage some of the pressing needs that they have.
As they wait for better prices?
Yes. Today, the post-harvest prices are very low.
I have not heard your MPs say that in Parliament.
Who?
I have not heard your MPs say that in Parliament.
They have.
The parish development model has been debated, is being debated. I have not heard them speak.
I think that that is a matter of Parliament, really.
Because it's there. It comes to the floor of Parliament. Where they can influence change.
It's a matter of... No.
I have not heard them.
What change can they influence in Parliament?
What are they doing?
Parliament that is owned by Museveni, personal property.
So
what happens there is,
we withdraw them.
Our members of Parliament are there at least to provide an alternate voice. And more than any other member of Parliament in the opposition, they have played their part. You see? So that for the record, Mr. Museveni and his people will not come so many years from now to say, they were not forewarned about some of these things. I think it's good to put it on record and say it was mentioned to you.
What if you asked Mr. Museveni to allow you play a sensitization role? You as FDC, where you have structures everywhere, including my Kaira where I come from, and you sensitize people on how to use this money so that you both work together to help the common man benefit.
That is expecting too much of Mr. Museveni, I will tell you. Whom does he listen to in this country?
We wanted to see you try him. You will listen to him.
That is a far-fetched dream.
If you act on a positive contribution and you are going to sensitize people, not on finance, but on how best to use PDM, I know he will work with you.
No, for me, I think that is a far-fetched dream. Because first, you don't market a program that you have not been part of, whose preparation, whose conceptualization you have not been part of. I think that for this conversation to bear any fruit, it would have been good for us to be part of the design of the program.
How did you miss out?
We were not consulted. You know how Mr. Museveni does it. It's a top-bottom approach. There wasn't any consultation done. Few councillors are put together, some of them without knowledge of what is being forwarded to them. They just say, well, I think this is a good program. They look at the money element more than any other element. I'm looking forward to a day when Mr. Museveni will say to this country, I think I have failed, I now need the opposition to work with.
No, but the problem with the
and that we are not just going to go...
engineer, you have very good ideas about how this country should run, and you're giving those ideas to me here on TV. But if Mr. Museveni invited you this evening in a phone call to say, hello, engineer, can we meet in State House and have a chat on the same? You would not go. Your people will tell you, you have betrayed us. How do you want him to work when you cannot even have courtesy to visit him?
I do not have to meet Mr. Museveni. In fact, I benefit nothing by doing that.
What if Mr. Museveni wants our ideas?
Yes, they are all
Written out in our policy documents?
They are written out in our manifestos.
No,
in fact, there is a lot of literature.
Even when they are written down, I, Muyangaruta, your party member, have not read them. I'm here on TV asking, and you're explaining it to them. If you're explaining to me, why would you not explain to Mr. Museveni, the president of the country?
I think Mr. Museveni has the opportunity given to him by the authority that he has to ask. I really cannot guess.
Okay, if we asked, would you avail yourself?
Well, yes, maybe. And again, not behind closed doors. I think I would like to address Mr. Museveni in the hearing and in the view of the entire nation.
What stopped you from talking in closed doors? You are leaders. Even me in my party, FDC, there are things you and Nandla Mafami speak, and I'm not there. You go close and speak.
You see,
and I wait for your word.
It's about the mindset of the population.
Maybe.
Yes, about the mindset of the population. Maybe. And the reality that happens to some of our colleagues. They go to secret meetings and they are swallowed. Not many have the spine to say no. You know, it begins by just a small conversation. Indeed, many of us have been approached by
messages from Mr. Museveni, and we have said no.
We're not going to meet him on this kind of private conversation. Let it be an open forum, and a serious open forum. And talking about seriousness, we had the opportunity in iPod, but we saw that it was not being taken seriously.
When he availed himself, you boycotted.
No, but then when you look...
No, but Ma was there, Mani was there, you participated in the organization, the arrangement, the sending of the program and mobilization. The day of the meeting, you boycotted, my president.
You can now ask, what did that meeting benefit? Today, do we have an iPod? The executive director is a director in KCCA. Wasn't this just an instrument being used by the NRM to undermine the opposition leaders? Just tell me of those who signed in the iPod, other than the FDC, who is not working with Museveni today. So to me, I saw this as an instrument to ensure swallowability, the ability for the NRM to swallow the other political players. And, you know, as an experienced and seasoned politician, I read into this and I said to my troops, we are not going to go to iPod. It is a total waste of time.
And that's
and we have been absolved on this, that after all, we were right not to renew our membership or participation in IPOD, because it was a useless vehicle.
I now address you as my party president. Tell me, we don't believe in war. We don't believe in elections. This weekend I'm going to Kaliro, where I am born. What alternative should I tell my villagers?
Please.
I want to hear from your mouth. What should I tell them?
Tell them not to engage in war. You don't, they shouldn't.
No war.
And, but by the way, we do not stop anyone engaging in war against the current regime.
Yeah, but
anybody is free to do that.
But we don't believe in it.
For us, we don't believe in that approach.
And you don't believe in elections.
We will go into, we believe in two prongs to this. The civil disobedience front, activism or defiance, if you want to call it, as one prong. That we think, if our people are fully mobilized, will succeed in bringing change to this country. The other prong is in the election. Going to an election, first of all, to keep ourselves above the political waters, but also as an opportunity to buttress the first prong. And we are doing this because every day that passes in our politics, you find the political space becoming smaller and smaller. the political passage is becoming constricted. We cannot be able to participate, perform our duties normally as a political party. IPOD, even if certain sections of that law have been outlawed by the courts, you know, the police still holds POMA. They still hold POMA high up in the air. And you saw scenes happening in Toro last time with our friends of NUP. These are things that we faced 20 years ago.
The Hot Cup at 9 with Engineer Patrick Oboi Amuriat. Patrick, when did you last speak to the party leader of NUP? As a brother, casually.
Casually.
Maybe in a phone call.
We did meet in Soroti in the elections, physically.
That's the last time you met?
He came over.
Okay.
And then we did meet somewhere again and promised that we would meet another time.
How about your predecessor?
Dr. Besige?
Major Muntu.
General Muntu. We again met in Serere recently. We were crisscrossing in our campaigns and had a conversation. We have always met. I actually do not have any axe to grind against General Muntu. Honorable Basaliro has been a bit evasive. I have visited JEMA headquarters several times, and is conspicuously absent every time I have gone there. So we have taken a long time without meeting physically.
What do you miss about it?
But I do remember that we met at the funeral of the father of the Lord Mayor in Kalungu.
That's all?
Yeah.
All those are informal meetings?
They are informal meetings. What
do you miss about General Muntu, the one who you succeeded?
Well, I think that General Muntu had good ideas. He had good mobilization capacity. He was an amenable political leader. In fact, you know, I dare say on record here that I have a firm belief that if General Muntu had stayed with us up to the election of 2021, he could have been our presidential flag bearer. It's what I think. And you see, of course, he went with some members, former members of our political party, and I think we continue to count our losses from the departure of General Muntu from the party. So it's really, many people will not say this on camera, but I dare to say that for us as FDC, General Muntu's departure was a great loss to us.
Great, thank you. Now you admit it's a good maturity. The NRM, the National Resistance Movement, is well prepared for an election even tomorrow. They have a standby generator somewhere. They have Kumain also. How prepared is the FDC for the next election?
Well, the FDC recently has launched a strategic plan, the 2022 to 2027 strategic plan. Within that strategic plan, there are all the elements that would ensure proper preparation, not only for an election, but also for the alternative. Of course, we have a dream as the FDC that the NRM would collapse before 2026. And that 2026, if it happens, would be under different management. And we are going to work towards that. I am not at liberty to say to you what we are doing in Kaliro, elsewhere on TV as my member. And I would like to appreciate that you are proud to be an FDC and you talk about it.
Only to the extent that I see where you are taking. Then I see where I stop seeing where we are going.
No, we are going to go together. Where you see us going in a wrong direction, then you have a responsibility. You are duty bound to say, look, President, I think we are going in the wrong direction.
What hope
we are
do you
going
have
to do
with
this
the idea
collectively?
of the Leadership Academy? You established the Leadership Academy just recently. Where else has it worked?
Well, I know that in Kenya it has worked. So I think Musalia Mudavadi, there is a school, political school, a leadership academy, that was started by him. The ANC has a leadership academy. We have got also local organizations that run leadership academies. But ours, the FDC Leadership Academy, is the first leadership academy by any political party in the opposition in Africa. And we are really very proud that we have pulled it off, and that going forward we will be moving across the country, educating our leaders.
What's the curriculum like?
Well,
what should one expect in Leadership Academy? What are you training people in?
We are training people on communication, for example, your area, on mobilization, mobilization of funds, mobilization elections, organizing people. We are training our people in public speech. You know, some people might have good ideas, but they are unable to express, you know, those ideas appropriately, and depending on the kind of audience that they are speaking to. And there's all sorts of political things that we are training our people on, and I think that it fits well to the needs of leaders within the FDC. We are going to be opening our doors to other political players if they so wished to come and partake of some of our knowledge.
Good.
And you know, we're going to be having a library from which we will be sourcing.
A wonderful morning this day with the Engineer Patrick Oboi. Oboi, are you interested still in leading FDC?
Yes, indeed.
Sure.
In fact, I should just declare my intentions now. To all the FDC watching now, power is on his way. I know that we have performed so well in this term, but there are a lot of rugged edges that we need to even up, and I think that in the period.
So when is the next election?
Next election is about November this year.
November.
The road map is not yet out, but I think that it's going to be.
And you're still interested?
Yes, I am.
But it is said that you have been captured. It's not you leading the party. Your secretary has captured you.
Again,
Nandala leads, not you.
I again would like to see a time when somebody says, I do not perform my duties as president, for them to confirm that I've been captured. I run the party.
You run the party?
Together with a management team.
Power, you run the party?
I listen to the management team. We take decisions together. And by the way, I am chairman of the top management team, that is a working committee. I chair the National Executive Committee. You see, I am a member of the National Council. That is called by the chairman.
So you're confident, sure that you're in charge of the party?
I'm carrying my duties in accordance with the Constitution. I am given all the respect that I deserve from my colleagues.
Wonderful. One word for the audience? We close this.
Well, I think I would like to speak to especially our Muslim friends this morning and to say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And to wish them a good Ramadan period. I know that the fasting period is about to come to an end. They are almost midway. And to say that the day after tomorrow, Friday, we will be hosting an iftar dinner at our home in Najanankumbi. And I would like to extend a word of welcome to all of them to come and join us, and to wish them a good and happy holy month of Ramadan, and in advance, Eid Mubarak.
Thank you. We have had an opportunity to have you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for giving Baba TV all this time and this space to discuss these wonderful ideas. Thank you this morning.
Thank you very much for having me here.